first community leadership session of this fiscal year, so this is mostly for the folks at home. Most of you guys will know this, but I'm going to do a little bit of announcements before we get started. For one, our first Saturday training will be November 7th. It will be here in Tahlequah at Northeastern State University. Most of you guys got the handout here. For those of you guys at home, you should be getting a mailer in the next couple of days, as soon as Tammy prints the labels. So, as soon as you guys get that, it will be November 7th from 9 to 3 at the NSU Net Lab Auditorium. It'll be done by Jennifer Meckling from the Oklahoma Center for Nonprofits, and she's going to be covering social media for nonprofits. The first part in the morning is going to be all the information. After lunch, we'll come back for a couple hours, and she will actually do a hands-on, show you how to build your page, a social media page. If you have any questions, how to put donors, how to put PayPal on there, how to do all those sort of things to help your organization. So join us for that. Our next cultural presentation will be November the 10th. That will be over, what's it called again, Brad? I think it's called Weapons and Tools, right? Traditional weapons and tools, bow making, that sort of thing, just right in the middle of hunting season, right? So we'll get started with that one. And that one will be done by Noel Grayson. He's a Cherokee National Treasure. Most of you might know him from the Heritage Center. So he'll be doing that one. And the last thing I need to remind you guys of, that your COTA grants are due on November 20th by 5 p.m. That's just a few little announcements and reminders. At this time, I would like to turn the presentation over to our presenter tonight, Mr. Brad Wagnon.
Before I get started, I'd like to have somebody pray for us, just to pray for our food that we were eating and kind of just get us started on a good foot. Susie, if you might pray for us.
Father in heaven, thank you for this day that you've given us, and thank you for the blessing of being able to come here and learn more about the things that we can benefit from. Father, thank you for these presenters, and bless them, bless gratitude, presenting this to us. And Father, thank you for the ladies that have provided and have put the food out for us to eat. Thank you, Father, for this food. Bless it for the nourishment of our bodies. In your name we pray. Amen.
All right. Most of you folks already know me, but for the benefit of those who don't, I'm going to introduce myself again. My name is Brad Wagnon. I'm fairly new with COTA, with CCO. I've been here for a little bit over 4 months. My background is in education. I was a teacher at Tahlequah High School for 10 years, with these ladies up here. And so I do have a little bit of knowledge of presenting to groups. Like I said, this morning my groups are usually a little bit younger and a little bit rowdier than you guys will be tonight. Although last month we had some singing and dancing going on during the class, so that was good. I'll be using a lot of examples tonight to get points across. I'm also a volunteer firefighter, been on the board at my fire department as well, so those are where most of my examples come from, because that's where my experience comes with from volunteering. And tonight we're going to be talking about leading great meetings, how to make your meetings organized, how to avoid and prevent some of the common things that happen during meetings that none of us like, and how to intervene if those things do happen. Our agenda for tonight, welcome and introductions. We've already done a little bit of that. You folks will get to talk to each other as we go through and introduce yourselves if you don't know each other. Learning goals, we'll talk about what we're going to learn tonight. Brainstorm activity, the worst meeting ever. So I want you guys to start thinking right now about the worst meeting you've ever been in and some of the things that happened during that meeting, okay? Presentation, keys to effective facilitation. That's going to go along with one of your handouts, the 10 keys to effective facilitation. There are lots of handouts for tonight's training. Then we'll have a little bit of a break, let you guys get some a refill on your tea or coffee, or some more wraps or vegetables or whatever you like, maybe some dessert. We had some stuff left over from this morning, so You have some dessert out there. Activity after the break, design an agenda. We're going to go over a sample agenda. I know most of you folks have planned an agenda if you're on a board, but this one is a little bit different. It lays things out. This morning, after I looked at it some more, I want you guys, when we do this, to kind of think about it maybe as an agenda for a special meeting that focuses on maybe a particular project or a particular problem that you're having in your organization. Maybe not look at it as an agenda for a regular monthly meeting, because those agendas are pretty much already set. You know, you do the minutes and the financial report and all that stuff. So think about it as a special meeting agenda. We'll have that template, that handout that goes with that. And then another presentation and handout, 10 interventions that work. This is talking about how to intervene if some of those bad things do happen in your meeting. Next steps in our closing circle, we'll talk about things that you can take back to your organization. Ground rules. Be respectful. Wait your turn to speak. Observe the time frames. That one's mostly for me. We didn't start on time, Ms. Rucker. That was my fault. No solicitation. Cell phone set to vibrate or silent. It's a good time for me to check and make sure mine is. Everybody else can do so as well. There are no wrong answers. Don't be afraid to speak. There's nothing that you can say that's wrong. Well, maybe a couple things, but we probably won't say those because we are being filmed. So, and have fun. These are designed for you guys to interact and have fun. So those are our ground rules. Things that we're going to learn tonight. Participants will be able to use an agenda planning tool to build an effective agenda based on desired outcomes. And that's the handout that I talked about, where I want you to think of it as maybe a special meeting planning tool. Participants will learn strategies for preventing common meeting issues, so how to not let those things happen. And participants will learn strategies for addressing common meeting issues. So if those things do happen, what do we do about it? Participants will understand the importance of having a thought out agenda for every meeting. You guys seeing a theme here? Agenda, 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 planning, planning, planning. Participants will have the ability to put together the fundamentals of a basic meeting agenda. Like I said, I know most of you folks know how to do that. You know how to run your regular monthly meetings. These are just some tools to help you make those meetings more effective. All right, our first activity. I want you folks to group up into 3, 4, 5-person groups and talk about the worst meeting that you have ever been in. What sorts of things happened at that meeting? What are your pet peeves that people do during meetings? Okay, so I want you to take about 5 minutes and talk about those things. And we're going to come up here and I'm going to ask each group and write some of those things on the board. Okay, so group up with some folks and take about 5 minutes to do that.
Everybody speaking out.
Here, give me one thing that you don't like, the worst meeting ever. Hang on just 1 second. Can everybody see this picture up here? Has anybody ever had a polar bear falling asleep at their meeting? Okay, that's the worst meeting ever. I was looking for pictures to go along with this one, and I typed in worst meeting ever, and this was the funniest one. And everybody's asleep, even the polar bear, except for this one guy in the middle, and he's barely keeping it together. All right.
We've been to a lot of meetings, and surprisingly, not one came to mind is like, oh, that was a terrible meeting. Oh, I didn't know how to use this.
This is for the benefit of the people watching on the internet here.
Okay, do I need to repeat that? Did y'all hear what I said at the beginning?
No, we didn't hear.
Do I need to repeat it? I just did. As many meetings as we've been to, we thought there certainly would be one that would stand out at least that was the worst ever, but just general comments is what we came up with, like,
Give me one.
The meeting goes too long.
Too long. We will definitely discuss that.
And getting off topic.
Off topic. Yep. Off topic. Off topic conversation is one of those big ones. But ladies down here.
We had off topic.
Off topic, that's good. If we have the same thing, that means we're on the same page. Go ahead and pass the mic around to the next group.
Dallin wrote it down. They were in our group there.
Sometimes we have people who hold the floor and the meeting hostage, and you can't
Meeting
get that.
hostage, yes.
Yes.
Meeting hostage.
that's a good way of putting it.
Okay, here you go.
All right, next group.
Well, we had a few. One of them is cell phones.
Cell phone.
People's cell phones going off when you're trying to talk,
Those are not.
and not following the Roberts rules.
Robert's rules.
Oh, goodness. One thing that bothers me is when you get people who want to complain, and you say, okay, we're going to have a meeting to brainstorm to solve some of these issues, and then you get them to around the table, and they don't have anything to say.
Complaining with no solution, right?
And then there's those negative folks, which goes hand in hand.
That's one of those things that Rob tells us in our staff meetings. If you're gonna complain, you better have a solution. You better bring a solution. So complaining with no solution or no real reason why you're complaining.
I really don't know what to say. I think everybody's doing about the same thing. I can really relate to this lady in front here. We get a lot of complainers. We just put a sign in our front door that said, before complaining, have you volunteered yet? That seems to work.
That seems to work. Pass it on down to your okay. All right. Oh. Can't miss them, can we? Got two groups down here.
We said when people want to try to make it a gossip session, and when a speaker is not prepared, and disruptions. You know, some people, like she mentioned, talk on the phone or they have other things, and it really is a disruption.
Okay?
And sometimes people can just be rude.
Yeah, they can. All right.
Well, we have the same stuff, but the worst meeting I was ever at was the two guys got into a dispute, and one called the other one outside to settle the
Actual
dispute.
physical altercation.
Yes.
That's a pretty bad meeting. You got one?
Yeah, it was, yeah. Our delegate assembly at a meeting I went to, we had to have a vote, and this is like the first time I ever went to delegate assembly, and that's like a association I'm with. And they had to have a roll call vote because there was argument about a dues increase of $1 a year. So,
So somebody pushing the vote over something that's kind of trivial. Huh?
They lock the doors on the roll call vote.
Oh man, for $1. So these are some good ones up here. These are pretty much in line with what we had this morning. That we had, not starting on time too long. We had off-topic conversations. Hold the floor, cell phones. Robert's rules. If you guys aren't following Robert's rules in your meeting, it's just a real good way to keep things rolling, and we'll talk about some other stuff to do that. Complaining, gossiping, not prepared, not organized was one that we had this morning, and disruptions could fall into a lot of those different categories. So what we're going to do next is we're going to talk about some things to prevent a lot of these issues from happening during your meetings. And what we'll do at the end of this presentation is we'll go back and talk about some of these. I'm going to tell you that some of these things you can't really prevent from happening at all. Some people are always going to complain. Some people are always going to gossip. Some of those things happen, but we're going to talk about some ways that maybe you can keep those things to a minimum and keep them out of your meetings. So, if you guys look at the handout that I gave you, about 10 keys to effective facilitation. Now, these things are going to fall on your chairman or whoever is running your meeting. Or if you're doing a training like this, they fall to the facilitator. A lot of these trainings talk about facilitation, and that's basically what I'm doing today is getting you guys on a topic. We don't really call it teaching because we're all kind of sharing ideas. I'm just here, you have you bounce your ideas off of me, basically, and that's what facilitation is. So these things are going to fall to whoever is running the meeting, whoever is planning the meeting. Number one, always have an agenda. This is going to come up over and over again. Always have a plan as to what you're going to cover, the process you're going to go through. And I will add to that, make sure the people in charge of the meeting or the person, somebody that's going to have a responsibility in the meeting knows what the agenda is. I know at the fire department we always had to post our agenda on the door. I was the secretary for a while, so I was the one that had to do that. But just posting it on the door isn't going to help you have an effective meeting. That's just covering your responsibilities under the Open Meetings Act. You actually need to probably get the agenda to the folks that are going to be involved in meeting ahead of time. They can look at it, they can know what's going on. So always have an agenda, and always have those folks that are involved in the meeting know what the process is and what the agenda is ahead of time if possible. Share the structure early and often, and that's what we do in these trainings. We always have an agenda at the beginning. We say this is what we're going to do, this is where we're going to have a break, so nobody's concerned about am I going to get another cup of coffee, or am I going to get to go to the bathroom? Is this guy going to be quiet long enough so that I can do those things? If you share the structure of the meeting early, then people will get it. If you have to remind folks this is when we're going to do this and that, then do that. Be prepared. That goes straight to what one of these was up here. People that are prepared, you can tell if the person presenting or the person running the meeting has no idea what's going on, right? That's why it's good. The way that I learn best, and this is a really good setup for me, is actually doing something with the material. So when I make these PowerPoints, that's how I learn the material. I don't have to spend a whole lot of time poring over what the book says as long as I make the PowerPoint. Now, if somebody else made it and I was supposed to get up here and teach it, that would be obvious that I didn't know what was going on next, right? So always be prepared for your meetings. Be in charge. This does not mean my way or the highway. This means know what's going to happen and stick to that with some deviations if need be. This is where your judgment kind of comes in. Do I get a little bit off topic to handle this person's concern, or do I stay with what we're going to do. We're going to talk about some ways to do that later on in the training, some ways to put things to the side for later, and things like that. So be in charge of the meeting, but be flexible. Know when it's time to get off your agenda, maybe just a little bit. We talked a little bit this morning. Someone had a question about finance. If somebody comes to the meeting, they're not really sure what a 501c3 is, they're not really sure what your mission is. When new people come into your meetings, you may have to be a little bit more flexible with them so they can get to know your mission and the things that you're supposed to be doing. Respect time. Try to keep the meeting to the time allotted. On the agenda that we're going to do here in a little while, it has a place to put time for each thing that's happening. Now, this isn't set in stone. If you say we're going to discuss this topic for 30 minutes, don't set a timer for 30 minutes and tell everybody to be quiet when it's over with. You know, it's just a way to keep things to a reasonable time. If you have 30 minutes set aside for something, you may spend 35 minutes doing it, but you won't spend an hour in pointless discussion, not getting anything accomplished. This time frame also helps people know that there's a certain time limit to this. So if they're going to say something, they need to say something productive. They need to be a part of the solution instead of just saying things off topic or complaining. So that helps with those things. Trust the process. If you put effort into planning a training or an event, trust that planning. Of course, like I said about being charged, this doesn't mean there's no room for flexibility. This just means not to deviate hugely from what you planned on doing. If you have a meeting set up to discuss a certain topic, discuss a certain project, don't let that meeting get off track onto something completely different. Trust that you're planning correctly, and you know what you're doing. Be strategic, but not wed to the outcome. I think a lot of us go into a meeting with a certain outcome in mind, and sometimes it may be an outcome that we just have in our head. It may not be the one that we actually wrote down on paper. When we do our agendas here in just a little bit, we're going to talk about outcomes and what the difference is between an objective and an outcome. So don't be so focused on a single outcome that you want to see happen that you don't take advice from other people or aren't flexible to other people's ideas. Be a good listener. Always listen to what your participants are saying, your members are saying. This is hard to do sometimes, especially if you're the one before, if you're wed to a certain outcome. You don't want to see other people's point of view. But a good facilitator or a good meeting facilitator will listen to other people in the meeting. And don't forget to get feedback. I was telling them this morning, we do read those feedback forms that you guys fill out at the end of these sessions, and I want your honest opinion, things that I can do better, things like that. I told them this morning, I know Rob, probably Tammy did too, read a lot of the feedback forms from the conference. Most of the complaints were about the food. You need more ketchup on the table, or you need this, or you need that. But we do try to listen to those things as much as we like to joke about it. And I think Rob even made the comment, if you're a vegetarian, you're at the wrong conference or something like that. We do want to meet people's needs, and that's what those feedback forms are for. If you have a need that we're not meeting, we want to know about that. And the same should go for your organization. You should listen to the needs of those people that are participating, and that feedback is a good way to get that, whether it's in person or whether it's a form that they fill out. With small groups like most of you folks have, in person would probably be the best way. What did you think about this, or what did you think about that? But you can also make forms to do that. We're coming up on a break, so you guys can refill your tea glasses and throw away your trash and things like that. Does anybody have any questions first, though, before we go to a break? Okay. Grace said she's gonna recycle the water bottles, so hang on to them. She'll take them and recycle them. All right, we're gonna have a 10-minute break. If you guys need to use the restroom or refill your cups, please do so.
Have you been? All better?
Yeah. Still got some congestion. The doctor said 2 months is about right. He told the doctor, he said, I'll see you in a year. We'll see.
That's positive thinking.
directions to their building, they'll be happy to give them to you. So I want to announce that before I forgot.
No, it's free.
All right. Well, our next activity is going to use the handout that you have here that says agenda planning template and example is what we're going to be looking at next. And right after that, we're going to be using the blank agenda template in groups. So if you have several people here from your organization and you want to keep one of those blank ones, we also have extra ones out there, but we're going to be using those as well. So I want everybody to look at the handout that says an example of the agenda template. I'm just going to go over this real fast, give you guys a couple minutes to look at it, and then go over it real quick, give some examples. Now, like I said before, I would look at this kind of as a template for maybe a special meeting that you're having over a particular project. It can help out with your monthly meetings if you're not sure how to plan an agenda for a monthly meeting. This could help out as well. But some of these examples really apply to a special meeting, maybe a meeting where you're inviting the public in to talk about a particular project or a particular objective of your organization. So just take a couple minutes and look over that, and then I will go over some of these examples and we'll discuss why certain things are on there on the example.
Thanks, sir.
Chris is handing out chocolate to help keep you guys awake while I'm talking.
We are talking about board meetings.
Yeah, we are talking about meetings. So. Okay, so we're going to go over this handout real quickly and see if there's any questions about it. If you'll look at the top thing, it says meeting objectives. I want to talk a little bit about the difference between objectives and outcomes. Objectives are those things that are kind of overreaching that you may not be able to measure in one meeting. You may not be able to determine whether you've met that objective within one meeting. An outcome is something that's specific to that meeting that you want to accomplish in the time allotted. So there's a section here for objectives and there's a section here for desired outcomes. So those are the difference between those two can kind of be confused with one another. But if you'll see at the top, they have 3 meeting objectives: to review the new neighborhood development plan with residents and other community leaders and gather input, to get volunteers to sit on the community advisory council that will make final decisions about the neighborhood development plan, and to ensure that community residents' voices are a part of the plan to be implemented. So their objectives all have to do with a certain project that they're doing, which is this neighborhood development plan. And then, of course, this neighborhood development plan isn't going to get planned in this one meeting. This is just the initial meeting, but these are their overall outcomes. Then they have agenda items. This is what they're going to do. They have introductions, review agenda and objectives, visioning, debrief, next steps, and closure. So those are their agenda items, and they have desired outcomes for each one of these. And like I said, the desired outcomes will be measurable in that meeting to see if they have accomplished them. Have everyone know each other's names. That's why I said maybe this particular line item isn't something on your monthly agenda. Most of the times, your monthly meetings, you have the same people there pretty much every month, right? You all know each other's names. So this could be something for a meeting, for a special project, or maybe a group like this. I know a lot of you folks already know each other, so we don't have to spend a whole lot of time anymore, particularly with names, but we give you guys time to talk and split up into groups, so that helps out with that. Review agenda and objectives. Make sure everyone is clear on the process and outcome of the meeting. This is going to be done by a presentation. So you'll see this goes line by line, the things that they want to accomplish. It also says how they're going to accomplish those things, the process they're going to use. And that's important that you know, if you have a desired outcome, how are you going to accomplish that? It's got a time frame in there, and like I said, that is just a suggestion. That's not set in stone. You don't buzz people or ding people when they run out of time in your meeting, but it is good to have an idea. And somebody asked this morning, well, would we want to post the time frame when we post our agenda? Probably not. You're not going to put on your agenda, we're going to do this for 30 minutes and that for 30 minutes. But the people actually involved in the meeting, that would be something good to know. How much time are we planning on spending? If you look down at the bottom, that total line down there says 120 minutes. So they're planning on spending 2 hours at this meeting. That just gives everybody an idea for planning purposes. We know everybody has a life. Everybody's got things to do, so we know kind of how long we're planning on being there. And then it has facilitator. Who is responsible for these certain parts of the meeting? Now again, if you're going to put somebody in charge of a certain part of the meeting, it'd probably be a good idea to tell them ahead of time. Some things are pretty much a given. You know, at your monthly meeting, you know the secretary is going to read the minutes from the last month's meeting. You know the treasurer is responsible for having the financial report ready and available. So those things are kind of given who is responsible. But if you're going to do something special, a committee report or something like that, you might want to notify the head of that committee that you're expecting them to give a report. That just is a good thing to do. So you'll see this is just kind of a sample agenda. Like I said, this may not look like the agendas for your monthly meetings, but if you were having a special meeting where you were inviting the community in, this might be something that you can use. Does anybody have any questions about that? Looking at it, everybody, it's pretty cut and dry. So what I want you to do is I want you to split up into groups again. It can be within your organization or outside your organization. I find these trainings are actually a good time for your organization, your board members and things to get to talk. Because a lot of times, some of you folks don't talk outside your board meeting, right? A lot of times you're doing a board meeting and everything's real hurried up. You guys do, I know. But sometimes these trainings can be an actual good place for you to solve actual problems or discuss actual issues that you're having within your organization. So use this template to do this. I want you to use the blank one there and come up with a meeting agenda, maybe for a project that you're working on, a problem that you're having, a special meeting that you might need to have within your organization. If you don't have anybody else here from your organization, group up with some folks that are not in your organization and discuss. You guys can both discuss your issues that you're having. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of time to do this. I'm going to look at my clock here and see just how much time we got. We're going to take about 15 minutes to do this. I want you to come up with some overall objectives for your project, and I want you to come up with at least three specific outcomes that you want to get out of this meeting, and go through and say, this is how we're going to get these outcomes. Figure out about how much time you want to spend on that. You can put yourself as a facilitator if you want to, but figure out some overall objectives and at least three outcomes that you want to get out of this meeting. And we'll take about 15 minutes to do that, and we'll share with each other.
all of the ones that are working outside. And we have to get high school girls that will help with the tours. And so our meeting will be for people to volunteer which of those activities they want to help cover and be involved in. And we invite everybody to come to Stillwell on December 7th. It's a Monday night. Well, the train gets there at 4, and they're usually ready for tours by about 4:30.
Where's the train coming from?
It starts in Kansas City and goes all the way to the Gulf.
How long does he want to be in school?
They stay there as long as there's anyone to go through it.
Okay.
But they're usually, it's just that one night.
Yeah.
But usually, it's finished by about 8 o'clock.
Do they is it like Christmas on the train?
Yes.
Do they have
Mhm.
elves and everything like
Yes.
that? Okay.
Yes. It has, the train is all of the activities on the train and the decorating of it and everything is done by retirees of the Kansas City Southern. And that's their project that they do each year.
And Mr. and Mrs. Santa Claus are there too.
Yes.
Two of us are with the. Two of us are with the same group, and so we had an interesting time here. But we went from very specific to general and back to specific. But anyway, Linda will spend 15 minutes with the group that meets to review the activities of the year, especially those that we were a part of the grant, and to see how effective those had been. And so we intended to get responses from those who showed up, maybe just post the, not that we wouldn't remember, but rather than have a prepared list, just as we think of what we'd done, we'd post that on a list or the board or something and discuss that. That's just one thing we said.
And what is the name of your group again?
Adair County Historical and Genealogical Association.
ACH10GA.
All right. Very good. Very good. We're going to keep moving along so we can get Ms. Rucker home so she can go to bed. And we'll have a little bit of time at the end. Grace has something that she wants us to announce as well. So we'll have a little bit of time at the end for some announcements. The next thing we're going to go over is your other handout that you got. There were several handouts with this presentation, but it says 10 interventions that work. So these are things to do if and when something does go awry at your meeting. Some ways to calm things down, do things in a manner that'll be effective, but also a manner that will hopefully not make anybody too upset. So the first one is regain focus. This one is a pretty simple one. This is basically just reminding the group of what the objective of the meeting is. Gently at first, maybe a little bit more forcefully if you have to later, if it still gets off topic, but regaining focus is just to saying, we're getting a little bit off topic here. We need to get back to talking about agenda item number 4 or whatever, whatever you're on at that time. So that's just, or saying, we're not here to talk about our livestock problems. We're here to talk about, how to plan a fundraiser. So just gently regaining the focus of the meeting. Boomerang. This is a good one for those folks that like to complain. This is, say somebody in your meeting keeps asking the same question over and over again, and it's something that they've asked at 10 meetings before this, and they keep harping on the same subject. A lot of times you can stop this just by stopping them and saying, okay, what is your solution to this problem, or what is your answer to this question because you know they have something in their head that they're wanting to talk about. So it might give them a little bit of time to say what they need to say, get that off their chest, or they may just clam up altogether if you ask them for a solution or an answer. They may just not say anything at all because they're surprised that you asked them. They may just want to be complaining or asking just to ask. So this boomerang helps you put that back on them to answer the question. Make the approach. Now this is a little bit more direct way of dealing with something. If someone keeps interrupting the meeting, somebody keeps talking on their cell phone, this is actually maybe taking a break and approaching that person directly and saying, you know, is there something going on? Do you have a family emergency? You know, if they're on their phone or whatever. Just kind of actually approaching them and dealing with that situation directly is what this one is talking about. Change the process. If you have something that's just not working, you might have to change up the way you do things. We all have to make changes in the way we do things sometimes. I know in teaching every year we have to make changes in the way that we do things. Sometimes the stuff that works for one class doesn't necessarily work for the other class. So don't be so focused on your process or what you're doing that you can't change the way you do things every once in a while. Okay, these are 4 different ways to deal with somebody that maybe says something that's a little bit off topic, or maybe says something that you're not quite expecting. Maybe it's a good point, but you weren't necessarily expecting to deal with that during the meeting. So accept is the first one. Accept is saying thank you for your input, basically. And that's as far as it goes. Maybe somebody says something that's off topic and you don't just want to call them out and say, hey, that's really not what we're talking about. So you just say thank you, accept what they said, and move on. Legitimize. If someone comes up with maybe a good point, you might say, thank you for your input. That's a good idea. You know, and then the next one is deal with it. If they have a really good idea or they come up with something really good, you may want to stop what you're doing and discuss that. Or if it's an issue that you know is not going to be glossed over, you may have to actually stop and deal with it. Defer is to put it back to a later time. Say, you know, maybe that's a really good point, but right now isn't really the time to discuss that. We'll put that to the side and we'll come back to it later when we have time. So those are 4 different ways to deal with that situation. Take a break. Sometimes if you have people falling asleep, maybe they just need coffee. If you have somebody not paying attention, maybe they just need to go to the bathroom. They're more concerned about going to the bathroom than they are listening to you. So maybe sometimes you just need to take a break. That really happens more in these types of settings. Usually in board meetings and stuff, if somebody needs to go to the bathroom or whatever, they just get up and walk around and go and do what they need to do. But sometimes you may have to take a break. Laugh at yourself. If you make a mistake, if you slip up and say something that you didn't mean to say or something like that, it's a good way to get over it is to laugh at yourself. Try not to ever make fun of anybody else for making a mistake, but making fun of yourself as a facilitator or as a chairperson or whatever running a meeting, if you make a mistake, that's kind of a good way just to get on past that issue. Check in with the group. This is kind of like making the approach, except you're doing it in a group setting. You're not really approaching that person directly, but say somebody keeps talking on their cell phone. You might just say, is everybody doing okay? You might just kind of look at everybody in the eye, checking with everybody. Is everybody doing all right? They may need to take a break. That's checking in with the group. Go back to the ground rules. You may have to remind certain people of what the rules are. That may just be not talking while other people are talking. I know in a large group setting last month we had 90-something people in here. It was hard to hear. It was hard to do certain things, and some people kind of drifted off into their own conversations. So you may have to remind people that these are the rules. Don't be scared to end early. If you cover everything that you need to cover, don't drag out the meeting. Just because you said you were going to have a meeting till 9 o'clock doesn't mean you have to end right at 9 o'clock. If you cover everything that needs covered, then you can end a little bit early. All right? Also, don't be scared to go a little bit late. Just a little bit, though. Not like an hour, but, 5 minutes or so if you haven't quite finished up your discussion or got done what you need to do. Okay? So those are some ways to avoid common meeting problems. All right, and this is getting close to the end of our presentation, our closing circle. This is where we talk about something that maybe you got out of this training that you can take back to your organization. So I'm going to pass the microphone around again. If somebody has something, I'm not going to force you to say something. Chris says that I should force you to say stuff, but I'm not going to force everybody in here to say something. But I would like a few things that you learned maybe from this training that you can take back to your group. But I'm going to start down here this time with Mr. Ty.
The making the approach thing was real helpful because you never know how to approach people. So
I like the part we just talked about when meetings, I don't know, get out of hand, things, the maybe we need to take a break, maybe we need to ask everybody if they're doing okay, that kind of thing, because that tends to happen, probably to all of us.
I like the whole aspect of the meeting, having an agenda, putting timelines on it, staying focused. As far as being prepared when you go into a meeting, a lot of meetings that I've been to, it's always been, by the seat of your pants. We're just going to talk about this today. At least this gives you some idea of flow, what you're going to do.
Yeah, some people need that. Some people like it, but some people don't like it. But some people that don't like it maybe need that focus.
My favorite thing is probably the boomerang. When somebody's going to have a problem, you turn and ask them what they're going to do to fix it, and then maybe that'll help bring that back around so that we do find a solution to their problem.
Yep. It's like a relay race. Grace will tell us something.
Yes. But we get out earlier. Okay. I like the 10 interventions that work because I am the facilitator and I really like the accept, legitimize, deal with, or defer because that makes the people feel validated, that you've heard them, you're not just fluffing them off, and yet you're able to continue on with your meeting.
Yep. Very good.
I like the timed 10-minute break.
Really, that graphic was neat, the way it just disappeared. I'm going to take this piece of candy home. No, the agenda, certainly. That was.
I would have to say the agenda and also the boomerang. And then that way, the people that do have the negative comments, you toss it back to them because that way they have to come up with something legitimate.
Well, we always have an agenda, but we haven't always put down a time estimate, and I think that would be valuable because I know sometimes it's easy to go too long on an item and you just keep rehashing. So I think that's a good point to remember.
Very good.
And I like the agenda too. Everybody knows what they need to do and what time limit to do it.
Probably the agenda for us also and staying on focus.
Well, I think that on these interventions that work, I think that probably each of us sometimes are uncomfortable in a meeting or about something. and you are afraid to speak up. And I believe that if you're not if you're able to laugh at yourself, like you can't make the point and you laugh, it makes everyone else a little more comfortable. And I think that's really key and important, that if if you can laugh at yourself, then you can enjoy the whole meeting.
I like the interventions too, because a lot of times we get to the point where we're not so nice, and those are nice interventions, because we say like, move on.
Yeah, especially when you know the people real well that you're dealing with, you can sometimes not be so nice about it.
I like the agenda, just trying to keep the meeting going, maybe the time frame so we can stay on one and not venture off on another topic. So that's something I never thought of, was putting that time frame on there.
I like the boomerang approach myself too.
Well, I like the agenda. We're tooting our own horn, but we do follow an agenda. But the most important thing that hit me tonight was the fact that start on time. Now, we've had several events at our place and we start on time. And we've had several good horseshoe pitchers miss the tournament. We've had some more miss the meal, but we start on time. So if you come to our place, we will start on time if it's just me. Another thing, I thought about this lady that talked about the two gentlemen that kind of got in a fuss. One good thing about them, ma'am, I'm going to tell you, they did offer to take it outside. And at our place, if this happens, they will take it outside.
Did you guys have anything to say?
Don't be scared to leave early.
All right. I'm going to put up the slide with our, for those people that do get to watch online, this is the slide for the evaluation. This is the evaluation that they can click on and go to that. So for those people watching online, this is where you need to do your evaluation to get credit. You folks that are here have an evaluation sitting in front of you that you can do and hand to one of us as you go out. This is the slide, and it is on the handout of the presentation that has all of our staff and all of our numbers if you need to get a hold of us. One thing that I know of before we go is Grace wanted to announce that they are doing the community tour on November 4th. What time did you say you were leaving?
Cherokee History Tour, 9:30 out of the Stillwell Public Library parking lot. It's a free tour. They're taking us to 4 places, and we'll arrive back at 3:30. They provide a tour guide and a bus driver.
So they're doing the community tour at Stillwell Public Library November 4th at 9:30, and they're inviting folks that want to go with them. They can hold 26 people on the bus. So it'd be first come, first served, but they're opening that up to folks that want to go take that tour. And I can tell you that I know the lady that'll probably be doing the tour, Janelle Adair, she does a really good job. She knows her Cherokee history. So, Chris, did you have anything else thought of? Tammy? Nothing else that we need to announce? Dope. Well, remember November 7th we'll be having a Saturday training at NSU at the Net Auditorium, 8 to 3. Breakfast will be at 8, so you don't want to miss the food. And then November 10th, right here, 6 o'clock p.m., we'll be having a cultural presentation from Noel Grayson on Cherokee weapons and tools. Yeah, we won't have another one of these trainings until the beginning, or until January. We'll give you guys time off for the holidays, so be looking for that. And we'll be calling you and sending you letters and sending you emails and all that to remind you.
Does that one on November 4th start at 6 o'clock?
November 20th.
Oh, yeah. Cherokees for Black Indian History Preservation have a concert November 20th and 21st at the Dream Theater here in Tahlequah. It's free, so. Nutcracker.
18th, 19th.
Yeah.
December 18th and 19th.
Yeah.
Is it
December 18th.
It'll be Friday and Saturday. So it's 1920, 18th, 19th.
You guys be sure and email those to us so we can post them on our Facebook.
What it is? Okay.
Yeah, if you do have events going on, you can email them to us and we'll
Okay.
get them on our calendar.
And what is the cost of admission?
3 on pro tip, and I think it's.
Thank you, guys. Merry recycle, fill out your evaluation before you go. Merry Christmas if I don't see some of you.